Honorable members, good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Cindy, can I
Recording in
check?
progress.
Can I check if we have a quorum?
Chair, we don't have a quorum, but we don't need a quorum to start the meeting. But I will alert you as soon as we have, if there's anything that we need to, resolutions we need to take, I will alert you if we are correct or not.
Okay.
But we have sufficient members to proceed with our.
Let me take this opportunity to welcome the speaker, the chairperson of the NCOP, the members of Parliament who form part of this joint standing committee, the STP, and members of staff present in this meeting. Honorable members, all of you are welcome. Welcome, Speaker. Welcome, Chairperson of the NCOP. It's 9 o'clock. We must start with our meeting today. I want to thank you. We had a very successful meeting during the week. It shows that the recess period has worked for members. They have been able to re-energize. And I observed in that meeting that we came back sharper. We are going to flight the agenda for today's meeting just to make the following remarks. Number one is that honorable members will remember that we have requested a meeting with the PAMET, which is due to happen on the 12th of September. PAMET has requested that the meeting should be a closed session. I'm going to request members to make themselves available on that day for that meeting. It is a long taken resolution of this meeting that we must meet with a PAMET. So that meeting should happen, and I want to encourage members to make themselves available and prepare for that meeting. Cindy will make sure that the documents that must be made available for the attention of members are made available on time. Number two, we are going to defer the minutes which we're supposed to be saving in today's meeting. The Secretariat has requested some time to make sure that the minutes are properly captured and they will be circulated for members for attention in the next, or for consideration in the next meeting. Can I check if there are members who have items that they want to have included on the agenda?
Chairperson.
Honorable Suisa.
Greetings, Chair. Greetings to the Executive Authority colleagues. Chair, I want to check with you whether we've adopted the program of the third term. I don't remember us doing it on the meeting on Wednesday, because it seems as if now we are executing a program that was never adopted. So I want to check, maybe I missed it in between, but I want to check with you whether we've actually adopted the program of the third term. Because I think I need clarity on something on the program that was sent to us on emails. So I just want to check if it was adopted or not.
Okay. Any other matter? Cindy, do you want to respond to the matter of the program?
Yes, Chair. Our program was finalized and submitted to the House chairs after our second term meetings have adjourned, but we can had ended, but we can still consider and make amendments to the program now, Chair, if members wish to do so. Shall I flag it?
I have not heard you, Cindy.
Oh, can you hear me now, Chair?
Yes, I can hear you.
We finalized our third term program after our second term had ended. So it was adopted to the House chairpersons and approved. However, programs can still be revised. So we can still consider it now. I can flag it for you if members want to do so now.
Okay. So, Honorable Suisa, do you want to suggest that the program can be presented for revision, or what is your view about that?
No, Chair. I wanted to know if this committee has adopted. I hear what Madam Cindy is saying, that the House chairs have, but if we, as the committee members, adopted the program, so that if we say we are doing amendments, we must do amendments on something that maybe we have adopted, because if we're going to do amendments, then it means that it will have to go back to the House chairs. But now what I wanted clarity on is, did we as the committee members adopt the program? And then maybe from there, I'll seek clarity on one of the items on the program. That was my question. I hear what Cindy is saying, but us as the committee, have we adopted the program? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Cindy?
The committee has not considered the program and adopted it.
Okay. Honorable Suisa?
Can we do that, Chair? And while we are doing that, I want to check the last item on the program, the meeting that is supposed to sit on the 19th of September. There are some issues that I've raised, Chair, especially that affects the organogram of Parliament. And it says that follow-up engagement with the management of Parliament on outstanding matters emanating from previous meetings of the Joint Standing Committee of Financial Management of Parliament, that last section. I want to find out that the issue that I've consistently raised about the organogram, particularly when it comes to the 6 program managers or program directors or whoever, is it going to be part of the responses that are going to be there? That's what I want to find out, because I don't want to find myself, Chair, fighting with you when we come on that on the 19th. And then we find that, because I was told that a report will be presented pertaining that. There's a lot of issues, but particularly the one that I've been raising consistently. Is it part of what is going to be presented on the 19th? Thank you.
Let's do this, Honorable Suis. I'm going to request honorable members that we continue with today's meeting, and then on Friday, before or after our meeting with PAMED, we do the consideration of the program, and then we should also be able to cover on those issues, Honorable Suisa, that you are raising, whether they will be sufficiently responded to.
Noted, Chair.
Does that cover you?
Okay, it's fine. Let's discuss it on Friday. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable members, is there any other matter? I must indicate that the co-chair has informed me that she was going to have some delays, and I hope that she will join the meeting as it progresses. I don't see any other hand. We are going to proceed with the agenda. Cindy, we will then have to move to the next item. Can you please fly the agenda on the screen? Honorable members, let's move to the next item. I have indicated that we were going to defer the minutes, and I have spoken to the item on permit. This should complete the first part of the agenda, unless, Cindy, if there is further correspondence that you wanted us to consider.
No, Chairperson, there are no further there's no further correspondence. We just still need to record our apologies, please.
Oh, okay. Do we have apologies?
Yes, we have received an apology from Mr. Khadebe, who is attending to T20-related item. Mr. Vessels has apologized because it's sharing SCOAC. Mehmet Mkalipi is on oversight with BC Copter. Ms. Clark has to be excused at 12:30. And the chairperson of the NCOP has a doctor's appointment, but she will join as soon as she's free, Chair.
Oh, okay. I'm going to hand over to the speaker to lead us in the presentation of the first quarter performance.
Thank you very much to you, Chairperson, honorable members and senior officials on the platform. Good morning. Today, we're actually presenting the performance on our annual performance plan for the first quarter. The report, both narrative and the presentation, has been circulated, and I trust that all members have received it for today's meeting. Honorable Chairperson, as you would see in the report, it actually indicates the work that has been done in terms of what were our targets for the first quarter, which was tabled to yourself. We are indicating on the work that has been done by both houses, which reflects the work in the committees, but also work in the administration that supports parliamentary work. In our own assessment, the performance as in the first quarter has been about 80%. And obviously, we will seek to ensure that we improve on the areas that we might not have attended to. And I trust that the members will be able to reflect on those which have been executed and advised whether there's a need for improvement even on those. I would like through you, Chair, to give these preliminary remarks and then ask you to ask the Secretary of Parliament and the administration to make the necessary presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. STP, welcome.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to Madam Speaker, And good morning to all the honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee. Building on what Madam Speaker has covered, quarter one essentially deals with two programs that we are reporting on, Program 1, 2, and Program 3 of Parliament. And we have about 10 key performance outputs that we are reporting on. And we will also report in detail on the financial performance and expenditure for the corresponding quarter, and that is April to June 2025. With your permission, Chairperson, I would ask our manager for business performance and strategy to report, and that's Brenda Mashika, Miss Brenda Mashika, and she will then be followed by the acting chief financial officer, and that's Miss Nomonde Mpefumlo. They will both share the presentation. Through you, Chair, I'll invite Brenda.
No, that's okay, STP. Yeah, Honorable Miss Mashika, may you please proceed.
Good morning, co-chairpersons. Thank you very much. Good morning also to Madam Speaker of the National Assembly, Madam Chairperson of the NCOP in absentia, honorable members, STP and colleagues. We are presenting the quarter one performance report covering in the presentation the program performance, the expenditure report, as well as the human capital report for quarter one. So we are required to report on Parliament's performance in the implementation of the annual performance plan as per the section 52 and 54 of the FMPPLA. And this quarter one report is in line with the approved APP for the financial year, which covers a total of the 10 performance indicators that have been measured, 2 of which fall in the Program 1 on administration, and 8 of the targets falling within the Program 2 on legislation and oversight. So the performance report covers all of those areas. So in then looking at the performance results for 2025-26 quarter one, overall, quarter one performance of the 10 indicators is that 8 of these targets have been achieved and 2 of the targets did not meet their quarterly requirements. Therefore, the overall performance result is 80%. Then looking at the details of Program 1 under administration, for this particular program, the 2 targets that were measured relate to the pursuit of a digital approach in Parliament, as well as the improvement of the human capital management. Both of these particular targets were successfully executed in this particular quarter and returning 100% result for the Program 1 on administration. So in respect then of what is meant to be achieved by this Program 1 and these targets, the digital transformation target aims to ensure that we have automation of core parliamentary processes and that we start to improve on the quality as well as the accessibility of information that will support the work of members, and also that will ensure that we have greater insights that will support and strengthen oversight. On the human capital target, the focus is on the development on the human capital strategy and making sure that we do have a comprehensive strategy that will also ensure that we support employee development and ensure that Parliament prepares for the future needs of the workforce and also enabling a high performance culture. So the first target then under administration on automation of the core parliamentary processes, in executing the targets during this particular period, on the automation aspects. The focus was on the analysis and design of the resolutions monitoring and tracking solution, together with the online committee submissions. These milestones for the quarter have been completed as planned, and more technical work is underway to ensure that by year end, we do have functional systems that will support core parliamentary processes. And then moving on to the human capital strategy development, the target for quarter one was focused on developing a framework with all the relevant strategic pillars that would guide the development of the strategy itself throughout the financial year. And this has been achieved as a foundational milestones that will set the path for the rest of the financial year. So moving on to Program 2 under legislation and oversight. In reporting on this particular program, we did cover work focusing on key areas under the following targets. We looked at the executive responsiveness, the development of the accountability standards, the oversight priority plan implementation for the identified committees. The program also covered the enhancement of public office appointment processes. There was a focus on the public participation improvements, the member capacity building program, as well as the related strategy development. And then lastly, the program covered legislative impact assessment. So collectively, the work on Program 2 aims to strengthen Parliament's oversight, legislative and accountability functions. So on the performance then for Program 2, the performance result achieved was 75% overall, with 2 targets missing their quarter one requirements. And these were targets on accountability standards, as well as the legislative impact assessment. In the next few slides, we will cover details on the reasons for the non-achievement of the 2 targets, as well as the details on the work executed on the achieved targets. So in respect to the first target under Program 2, on executive responsiveness, the requirement was to monitor the level of responsiveness by the executives to the resolutions made, and to ensure that we identify where the accountability gaps are. This ensures that there's obviously timeless escalation that would hold the executive accountable. So for this particular quarter, the resolutions were monitored and they were tracked with the report provided as required, and therefore this particular target was achieved. On the development of accountability standards, the target for the quarter and the requirement was for research to be conducted on the best practices for clear accountability standards that will ensure that Parliament can address the executive non-responsiveness, as well as to ensure that we start to pursue accountability on the non-responsiveness. So the work completed during the quarter related to the analysis of the quarter report on parliamentary oversight and accountability, as well as the report on the independent assessment of Parliament. However, the full report development on the benchmarking was not completed in time, owing to some processes that would enable the production of a quality research report. We did not just want to submit the report for the sake of submitting it, but ensuring that there is quality assurance on the research report. Therefore, much of the remedial action has been taken in quarter 2 to ensure that we complete the analytical report on the accountability standards. And honorable chairs and honorable members, we can safely report that this target has since been achieved, and we do anticipate that in quarter 2, the milestones will be back on track. In relation to the oversight priority plan implementation for the year, this is meant at achieving a targeted oversight focus area to ensure that the work of oversight committees does align with national development agenda. Honorable members will remember that the oversight priority plan was a target also in the previous financial year where we piloted this particular plan. And now in this financial year, we are focusing on implementation with the identified committees. So the target for the year is therefore to ensure that we implement this, and for the quarter, this was to update then the plan itself with the medium-term development plan targets, making sure that we do align all the work of the committees with the MTDP, and this has been achieved for the quarter. And then on the standardization of public office appointment and removal processes, the work for quarter one, a gap analysis was conducted to assess the current appointment procedures for office bearers in the institutions supporting democracy, and therefore this particular target was achieved for the quarter. On public participation improvements, Parliament has dedicated this financial year to ensuring that we do focus on improving public participation. And the objective is really to identify key issues and challenges that Parliament must address to strengthen its public participation processes. So for quarter one, the requirement was to conduct a gap analysis and to compile a report on the court judgments and address all of these challenges. And then from here, the team will be providing the annual implementation plan to close on the gaps and to make sure that we start improving on public participation. So the gap analysis was conducted, and this particular target was achieved for quarter one. In respect to the implementation of the member capacity building program, the target for the quarter was to develop an annual program, and this has been achieved. A training schedule outlining this year's planned intervention has been developed, as well as the application processes for members enrolling in academic programs has been successfully facilitated for the members to ensure that they're fully capacitated to execute their constitutional duties. So then, as part of efforts to strengthen the professional development of members and the framework, Parliament did resolve to ensure that we do develop a comprehensive strategy to align the evolving needs of members. And for the quarter, to start on this work, the target was to ensure that there is a terms of reference for review and development of this capacity building strategy, and this has been achieved. So the TOR itself outlines the methodology for the review, the scope of the work that will be covered, the objectives, and all the stakeholders that will assist us in ensuring that we develop a comprehensive strategy on member capacitation. And then lastly, the target on the legislative impact assessment framework aims to ensure that we implement a framework which was also piloted in the previous financial year. So for quarter one requirements, the objective was to take the learnings from the previous financial year piloting evaluation report, to review it and ensure that we update the framework, either through a direct update of the framework itself or the development of a supporting toolkit. And so, members, the update and development of this toolkit was not completed within the required timelines of quarter one. We can, though, report that the remedial actions to update the framework to assist the committee with implementation have since been concluded during this quarter two period, and then we do expect that the target will be on track from quarter two onwards. So that brings us then to the end of the APP performance on the 10 targets, and the next summary report relates to the work of Parliament. So in relation to the oversight work on oral and written questions for the quarter, we have noted the improvement in the response rate in both houses. The NCOP has maintained full response record of 100% in oral questions, and the National Assembly has achieved a 97.5% response rate for the quarter. On the written questions, the NA received 2,234 questions and facilitated 80% of responses, with the NCOP with 469 written questions posed to the executive, and this returned an 88.3% response rate. We've also noted the high volume of questions that are increasing over time that have been posed to the executive, which reflects a robust and targeted executive accountability and responsiveness on governance. Moving on to the summary of work, the two houses continued their efforts relating to the sittings, the debates, the legislative processing and statutory appointments, and highlights in these areas show that there was active work with the NA and the NCOP, NA actively covering 42 debates, passing 4 bills, conducting various sessions for statements, and making one statutory appointment in relation to the ICASA Council. The NCOP focused largely on interventions and written statements, which we will cover in the intergovernmental relations slide later in the presentation. So the work of committees continued, specifically conducting in total for April, May, and June, 23 oversight visits, processing 49 departmental reports, and conducting 432 committee meetings, both physically and virtually. And the work assessed primarily the Q4 activities of the previous financial year. Notably, the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration produced a consolidated report on the previous financial year of 23-24 local government outcomes. This was showing, limited progress in addressing long-standing issues in local government. And as such, the Select Committee will be intensifying oversight to ensure that they track the implementation of the audit findings and other governance matters. Another focus area was on water and sanitation matters, with serious concerns that were raised on the deteriorating quality of municipal water and related public health risks. So there is ongoing monitoring on the department to ensure that they do address the challenges and improve the water services across the country. On lawmaking, Parliament continued its efforts on the lawmaking function with 27 bills before the National Assembly, as well as 7 bills before the NCOP committees. And then in total, the NA did pass 4 bills, with 3 of those referred to NCOP for concurrence and 1 bill to the President for assent. And during the quarter, 1 bill on the Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill was signed by the President. So the efforts then to continuously engage the public in legislative processes continued for the quarter under review, with key engagements undertaken on public participation by the Select Committee on Appropriations in the NCOP on the various bills, one of which was the 2025 Division of Revenue. Several public hearings were held across the country to receive legislative inputs on other bills, such as the marriage bill, the merchant shipping bill, amongst others. And to continue public involvement, Parliament also received and considered about 23 petitions, which were referred to the committee and ministries for immediate processing. Some of these petitions raised ranged from concerns on the appointment of commissioners. There were some allegations of abuse by public officials, others related to poor municipal governance matters, and others on social justice matters. Notably, the Speaker of the National Assembly responded directly to 13 petitions, ensuring that there is attention and responsiveness to public concerns. So we also continued on the media and outreach work to ensure that we deliver stakeholder educational workshops on the role of the institution, providing information and education on the various bills, as well as related events, especially on the P20, which is relevant to this financial year, as well as the Youth Parliament. Parliament's media and outreach work also continued, delivering stakeholder communication through community radio stations And we have ensured that there is continued focus in this regard in reaching the people of South Africa using their languages and ensuring that they get the messages on Parliament and its work, and also get active participation from them. And then moving on to the intergovernmental relations, the key focus areas on this particular aspect is that the NCOP continued actively engaging all special delegates as well as SALGA on the various provincial and municipal matters. And in relation to Q1, 2 notices of interventions were received from the Free State Provincial Executive, as well as the 4 written notices that were received as early warning of challenges in the various municipalities, such as Mkhayagude, Umdoni, Nkomazi, as well as Beaufort West local municipality. And the NCOP, the council, is actively monitoring the developments in these areas to ensure that all matters are addressed timelessly before they become interventions. And then in respect to the international relations, the highlights is that the institution did continue to advance interparliamentary cooperation at the various forums, and then notably the BRICS Forum in June, and this was led by the Honorable Governor, with key outcomes that were adopted on the regulation of emerging technologies, on climate change matters, amongst others. Also, during the quarter, the Honorable Ma'am Didiza led the delegation to Zimbabwe SADC-PF plenary, which deliberated on artificial intelligence in parliamentary processes. And South Africa actively submitted 3 adopted motions, with the plenary resolving to prioritize regional policy harmonization, looking at ethical frameworks on AI, as well as the adoption of the whole of SADC enterprise architecture in this regard. And notably then, South Africa is also looking forward to hosting the 58th SADC-PF Plenary Assembly in KZN during December 2025, and preparations in this regard are underway. And then a final highlight on the international relations was the IPU 150th Assembly held in Geneva in April, with the delegation led by the Honorable Ma'am Didiza again. And South Africa participated in the co-drafting as well as the voting in favor of an emergency resolution in 3 conflict areas, which we are all aware of: the Palestine, the escalation of conflict in DRC, as well as the Sudan. Notably then, South Africa led the endorsement also on the female candidates from Botswana and Cote d'Ivoire to the IPU Bureau of Women Parliamentarians. The Assembly itself adopted key resolutions in relation to parliaments that reinforces support for a 2-state resolution in Palestine, as well as the resolution on parliaments to ensure that there is continuous mitigation on the long-lasting impact of conflicts. So these then were the highlights from the international relations functions during Q1. And then lastly, in respect then of the FMPPLA statutory requirements for submissions for the first quarter, overall, Parliament complied on the monthly financial statements, submissions, tablings, the quarterly reports, as well as the annual performance plan. And that brings us then, honorable members, to the end of the Q1 performance information highlights. The acting CFO, Ms. Phefumlo, will be delivering the details on the financials and expenditure report for Q1 in the next slides. Thank you, Chair. Over to you, Ms. Phefumlo.
Thank you, Ms. Mashika. Good morning to Chair and Co-Chair, Honorable Speaker, committee members, STP, and the colleagues. I'll be presenting the financial performance for the Q1 of the financial year. This is the performance in the quarter where we had challenges with the passing of the budget. and we had to spend in line with Section 19 of FMPPLA for the quarter. Also, we had to ensure that we had extensive consultations with the stakeholders in terms of the budget allocation. So the budget was finally approved on the 1st of July. So that means spending for the quarter was in line with Section 19 of FMPPLA. And then that means the spending for the quarter, there were no projections for the quarter. The budget and the actuals would be the same because division needed to get the allocation letters to be able to project the spending for the financial year. Thank you. Next slide, please. So I already indicated that there's spending for April to June. It will be at 100% because the budget is the actuals for the quarter as we're spending in line with Section 19 of FMPPLA to ensure that our spending for the first 4 months, the Act requires that the spending for the first 4 months doesn't exceed 45% of the budget of the prior year. So we're monitoring to ensure that we comply with the Act while we're spending in executing the work of Parliament and the 80% achieved targets that have just been presented. So administration program, if we exclude the rebuilding, the spending for the financial year, spending for the quarter compared to the budget for the year was 20%. The rebuilding spending was at 0.2% of the budget. We spent there 4.6 million. However, there is 116 million spending that was not accounted for because reconciliations and vetting of the expenditure received from DPSA needed to be done. So that expenditure will come in the second quarter. Administration total spending then was at 7% when we include the rebuilding budget, also 1.7 billion. Legislation and oversight spending was at 19% of the budget of 992 million. Associated services spending was at 25%. And then direct charge for compensation of members, the spending was at 27%. So overall, the spending for the quarter was 729 million, which is 14% of the total budget of the institution of 5.084 billion, or 5.084 billion. If we exclude the rebuilding, the spending was at 22% of the 3.2 billion on the ordinary course of business budget, if we exclude the rebuilding. Next slide. That's what I just captured now if we exclude the rebuilding. Next slide, please. Here is the same information, but in a bar chart format, indicating that the overall spending is at 14% of the total budget. And if we exclude the rebuilding budget, then the spending in the core business of Parliament, excluding the work on the rebuilding, is at 22% of the budget. Next slide, please. Next slide, I already captured this in my explanation. Next slide, please. Here is spending the economic classification because we're looking at the programs. The economic classification, the same processing of the expenditure for the quarter, it will be 100% because we were spending in line with Section 19. The budget was not approved yet. There were no projections done by the business units. So the overall spending still is at 14% of the total budget. For compensation of members on the direct charge, we spent 27% of the budget. A permit for contribution of medical aid for former members of Parliament and provincial legislatures, we spent 28% of the budget, and the indications that will need additional funding of 15 million when we're looking at what will be required for the year, because we have to contribute each month. What the budget that was allocated was not adequate for the whole financial year. We are engaging with National Treasury for adjustment budget processes to fund that shortfall. Compensation of employees budget spending is at 22% of the 1.3 billion budget. Goods and services APP, we spend 13% of the total budget of 526 million. There was low spending in the quarter because there were still uncertainties in terms of the division, how much they're gonna get, so that they can plan the spending. We can expect the spending to pick up in the second quarter. Goods and service members entitlement spending, it's at 27%. Also, the budget that was allocated for the entitlement, if we're looking at in terms of the handbook, how much members are entitled to, that amount is not adequate as well. We had a shortfall of 21 million there. So we are engaging National Treasury as well there on additional allocation during the adjustment budget, because we have to fund the entitlements policy driven. Transfers to political parties, we spent 24% for the first quarter to pay political parties as they submit the financial statements of the prior year in line with the policy. So there we are, the projections, political parties will pay what we got from National Treasury, so there are no issues there. Capital expenditure, it's mainly the rebuilding of Parliament project. Parliament has awarded for both NA and Old Assembly rebuilding. So from second quarter going forward, we're expecting this expenditure to pick up. Next slide, please. So this is the same information. Overall spending 14%. Overall spending 14%. If we exclude rebuilding, 22%. Outlining on each year economic classification, I just outlined on the previous slide. Next slide, please. Indicated that on compensation of members, there's indication of a shortfall of 34 million, which we are engaging National Treasury on that one. We can't wait until end of the financial year to claim that amount, because it will impact on the cash flows of Parliament. So they must relook at funding the shortfall in the adjustment budget. Permit, there's a shortfall as well there, 15 million. Compensation of employees, we spent 22% in the first quarter of the total budget. Next slide. Goods and services APP, I indicated the low spending was due to uncertainties and budget not approved yet and allocated to divisions to plan better the spending. Next slide. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, Parliament has spent 14% of the 5.084 billion budget, or 22% of the 3.2 budget, excluding the rebuilding. We're expecting the rebuilding expenditure to pick up as now construction is underway. And also we are monitoring the spending to ensure that business units are spending economically and efficiently and get value for money on the spending on goods and services. Thank you, Ms. Mashika.
Thank you, Ms. Pefumlo. Would like to invite Mr. Mgaga to present the Human Capital Report. Mr. Mgaga, over to you, please.
Thank you, Ms. Mashika. Co-chairs, Madam Speaker, Chairperson of the NCOP and colleagues, good morning. The work performed around human capital. We have since drafted a human capital strategy in the month of May, really to inform the work across the institution of Parliament to support the strategy. This work was kicked off as part of our strategic planning conference under the theme of recharging human capital and becoming the heartbeat of a high-performance culture in Parliament. What are these priorities? We're looking at getting ready and preparing the future talent of Parliament. We also responding to the digital world. What could be done from human capital point of view to integrate the digital systems? We also focus on the employee well-being. We also look at enhancing the delivery service of human capital, which is the HR business partnering model. And we embarked on the policy reforms, where we looked at about 9 policies that needed to be enhanced, one being introduced. Next slide. This slide talks to some of the areas in terms of achievements. The ORP work in terms of the targets for the first quarter have been met. The performance culture, this item refers to setting of new objectives as well as performance appraisals. By the time of reporting, we're slightly behind due to system hiccups that we have experienced, but we've since overachieved. Both processes, we're now sitting at 96%. This is for the first time in the history of Parliament that this high performance culture is being embedded since the arrival of the STP 3 years ago, as well as the enhancement of human capital. So we continue to measure this. We're now sitting at 96%. By the time of reporting, we're not at that level of 96%. It's something that we need to applaud. The learning and development interventions that has been met in terms of occupational health around the well-being initiatives and interventions that has been met. The employee relations, which involves ensuring that we cultivate a high performance culture, ensuring that we have engaged employees, as well as minimization of grievances, disciplinary cases, or any other matters that are being referred back to CCMA. And we've been able to manage those matters successfully. Next slide, please. What did we do around learning and development? Some of the highlights in terms of the courses provided, we focus on the governance and compliance. We focus on behavioral skills, which are key towards the culture shift that we are all desired or aspiring to have. We also focus on the technical and digital skills with overall 162 employees being in attendance. We also focus on the adult education, particularly this is for lower level skills in the institution. We've partnered with CETA to provide integrated courses to upskill the lower levels of our employees. We have also launched the ICDL program. This is geared towards integrating the AI and the new innovations, and we continue to progress. So far, during the reporting, we've had 7 employees attending to that. Next slide, please. With regards to the employee well-being and employee wellness, we continue to receive number of volumes visiting the clinic. In this quarter, we're reporting 500 people that have visited. Some of the screenings that we started initiating because we had entered the winter season, we introduced the flu vaccines. However, there were further consultations on various reasons of about 461. We also rolled out the wellness training with about 9 events, which then included about 103 participants across the institution. Next slide, please. With regards to appointments, the talent acquisition, we have prioritized, Madam Speaker and NCOP chairperson and co-chairs, the core business of Parliament. During the quarter, which is between the April and June, we're able to make progress. About 33 appointments were made, geared towards supporting the language services, the research unit, the committees, as well as assistants. I can safely indicate that in the next quarter, we'll see more recruitees in this area. So most of those positions that were asked for to expedite, we've done so, Madam Speaker and Chairperson of the NCOP. The turnover around staff leaving the employ of Parliament, it remains steadily below 1%. We report 0.33%. This is largely on the resignation rates. Next slide, please. So we continue to measure ourselves. Here we are talking about what do we ought to do to improve our delivery from human capital point of view. We have put together a recruitment improvement plan, and we have seen that plan is helping us really to make progress in filling of vacancies and also bringing in efficiencies or tools to improve our talent acquisition. We have since put in place, I reported previously, Madam Speaker and the chairperson and co-chairs, that there's a talent acquisition team, which are 3 employees of Parliament that drives the recruitment and selection. This is to ensure that the backlog is dealt with. This is to ensure that the critical roles for core business are filled timelessly. We have made a lot of progress in that regard. And we continue to look at technology to improve and enhance the work of human capital, particularly in the areas of recruitment. We are looking at how we can integrate AI. We're also looking at the areas of job profiling to improve, as well as the learning and development in terms of offering our training. Next slide. STP and Ms. Mashika, I want to end here from human capital point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mgaga. Honorable committee chairpersons, honorable members, Madam Speaker of the NA, and Madam Chairperson, STP and colleagues, we have now come to the conclusion of the presentation on the Q1 performance report. We do welcome in advance the committee noting the report, providing their wisdom and guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We want to thank you, Speaker and STP and the team for the presentations. Honorable members, can I check those of you who want to engage with the presentation? I'm going to note hands in this order. We are starting with Honorable Suisa, followed by Honorable Clark, Honorable Dagmore, Honorable Van Rooyen, Honorable Baden-Horst, and then there is Honorable Nilmay and Honorable Ndangwini. May we please start with Honorable Suisa.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Thank you very much, Chairpersons. Greetings again, colleagues, Chairperson, Madam Speaker, Chairperson of National Council of Provinces, STP, and your team. Chair, I don't have many questions, but I think I've noted about 2 or 3 questions that are from my side. And I still have a concern when it comes to response to questions, Chair. We can't still be finding ourselves at the mercy of non-response within 10 days. It's unacceptable. We can't. Some of the questions that members sent in need urgent intervention, and we need also for ministers to respond in time. So we can't still be sitting with a problem whereby there's about 12% of questions that are not being answered within the 10 days. This is urgent. Number 2, the issue of written questions being converted to oral reply, it also becomes a disadvantage to some of the members because people are expecting a written response. Some of these people do not have access to actually have the privilege to listen to responses on Parliament TV, because some of them you'd find that there's no network where they are, or they can't even afford to have a DSTV in the house. So the only reliable source that they have is if a member of parliament submits their questions, they are going to get a written reply that we can easily send to them via WhatsApp, or we can ask a neighbor to show them the response. So I think we also still need to look into the issue of response from ministers, which is putting our people at a disadvantage. So that was just a comment, Chair. The other one is the breakdown of communication between the 3 spheres when it comes to responsibilities. And again, I'm going to make an example about the Department of Water and Sanitation. The minister would tell you that I'm responsible for infrastructure, so you can't ask me about water supply. And when you send a question, now you are stuck. You can't ask a question to the relevant person because your own colleague in parliament sometimes refuses to actually give you the response. So I think somewhere, Chairperson, Madam Speaker, through your Chairperson, we need to look into how we can make the 3 spheres to work hand in hand to ensure actually that there is going to be speedy service delivery to our people, especially when it comes to the issue of water and sanitation. So we need to find a way of dealing 3 spheres communicating to each other. We need to find a way to oblige ministers to actually intervene and give us the responses, and not to be referred to say that you need to speak to your councillors that they need, because sometimes we raise these questions because councillors are stuck. They don't get answers from municipalities, and that's where the minister needs to come in. So, Madam Speaker, I think somewhere we need to find a way of making sure that the 3 spheres actually work hand in hand to ensure service delivery. The expenditure report, 4.6 million rebuilding was spent on rebuilding of Parliament. Can we be specific what was done with the 4.6? Because rebuilding can entail anything. It does not necessarily mean brick on brick or cleaning or whatever. Can we get a specific as to how the 4.6 million was spent? Human capital, the issue of interpreters, we've always had an issue. And I see that the presenter said that language has been prioritized. Does it mean that all the vacancies that entails interpreters have been closed? And if not, when are they going to be closed? Because we can't, it's very disruptive, Chair, when you sit in a house sitting and then a question is asked and a member is asking a question, and some of us have got interest in what the question is all about. And the member, because we are allowed to speak in our African languages, and then a member is asking in Shivenda, and then we don't have any translator, then it means that we are just sitting there to pass time. So have all the vacancies of interpreters or translators being filled? If not, when are they going to be filled? Because we can't operate without knowing what some of our fellow members are saying in Parliament. I think I'll stop there for now, Chair. Thank you very much.
The next on the list is Honorable Clark. You can lower your hand, Honorable Suisa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for the presentation and good morning to everybody in the meeting. Just a couple of things I just would like to ask and then get clarity on some issues. So I note that we are in the region of 80% plus in terms of our questions that have been answered. But the real concern I have in some cases, and it's not always, but there are some cases that the answers we get are very, the quality of those answers are not great. And that forces us then to resubmit questions when that happens. So that's something that really should be looked at in terms of quality of answers we get. And then I would like to request that in terms of our constitutional duty as MPs, we are supposed to do oversight, and we so often get blocked. And I take myself, for instance, I get blocked at hospitals and I'm not allowed to go in, even if I have my parliamentary badge on, etc. And I really think there's time that we need to develop an SOP in terms of MPs going to do oversight visits, you know, in terms of their relative portfolios, because it's important that you go and see. And, you know, I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if they think you're bringing the media or all kinds of things with you, because that is not the case when I do oversight. I do oversight in order to raise issues that need to be raised at the committee and the departments to look at it. So I think it's time that we develop an SOP so that members of Parliament are actually not accosted when they get to the site to do oversight. Then just on the second presentation, I note the 0.2% expenditure on the rebuild. With that, I mean, we had an in-depth discussion about the dome linking up to the rebuild in the last meeting. And I would just like to find out that are we on track in terms of our timelines? And if that has been managed, and if we're not on track, where are we now, and what delays are we facing? And then could you please just tell me also what would the timelines be in terms of your recruitments, because you speak about, you know, recruitments and making sure that staff recruitments are skilled, etc., through CETA. I mean, what are the timelines for that? And then something that wasn't presented, but I would just like to see clarity on that, is what is the maintenance budget looking like in terms of Parliament? And will we have enough funding in order to execute the kind of maintenance we need to do on the precinct? Thank you very much.
The next honorable member. Honorable Dagmo.
Greetings, Chair. Thanks again. Greetings also to Speaker, NCOP Chair, and yourself and our co-chair. I first of all just want to thank the Speaker and the STP and the staff members who have reported. I think it's clear to me that in regard to the APP and these quarterly outcomes that are being reported, that there is a genuine progress being made in terms of the overall mandate of Parliament. And I think it's something that we should appreciate, and I would like to appreciate that. I just have one question which links to the issue of the report on questions for written reply. And, you know, obviously what's very useful is when members of the public or members of Parliament want to go to the parliamentary website and check on responses that have been given to particular questions in, say, the Transport Department or Human Settlements and so on. I just wanted to ask how often, at what time period is the parliamentary website in regard to answers to questions for written reply updated? I mean, is the target to have it updated sort of for questions up to a month from the date of someone looking, or could we just have a response on that? Because a lot of effort goes in for members asking for responses, for parliamentary staff to process all of this stuff. And I just think it's a very important resource. And I would like to ask, what is the objective in regard to updating the website with those replies in terms of timeframes? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Van Rooyen.
Thank you, Chair and a co-chairperson. Greetings to the Executive Authority of Parliament, as well as the accounting officer and his team. Chair, very quickly, maybe let me start by welcoming the report from the team. Highly appreciated. There's something that I thought I might have missed. Maybe it's in the APP itself, when reference was made to the details of the oversight plan, as well as the gap analysis. I think such reports are very important for us as a committee to be finished with, because then they will be telling us exactly how severe is the state of obviously executing on those two areas. So maybe if the oversight plan that is referred to is somehow popularized and maybe shared with us, as well as the gap analysis that has been conducted by the team. And also, Chair, on the budget process, one thing that I think we should consider, or maybe the executive should consider doing, if you look into the current new joint rules on the Joint Standing Committee, that is our committee, they specify that the committee must maintain oversight over the financial management of Parliament, and of course performs the functions and exercises the powers specified in the Act. However, if you take a closer look, I don't think we are doing justice to that particular provision. The budget processes that is envisaged in the Act, I don't think we have fully operationalized those processes. And that's why SNK Party would like the Executive Authority to consider a more open approach when we deal with issues of parliamentary budget. And the suggestion that we would like them to consider is the establishment of a parliamentary budget forum. I mean, this forum, of course, is a forum that will be used, I mean, as a consultative forum on the preparation of the parliamentary budget, as provided for in the Act. Of course, under the leadership of the Speaker and the Chairperson, before they report maybe to the two houses. And of course, as I've suggested, the forum can be constituted in such a way that it becomes inclusive, of course, co-chaired by the Speaker and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. But at least it must be more of a politically driven forum, encompassing or maybe including all political parties that are represented in Parliament. And I mean, the modality of representation can be worked out later, but I think we need a broader consultative forum to deal with this important assignment of the parliamentary budget process. That's what I will suggest to our Parliament Executive Authority to consider. And then lastly, Chair, from my side, as Parliament, we have been experiencing challenges with the level of service from the Department of Public Works. And this has been happening over years. And I know even during the induction of the 6th Parliament, this matter was raised quite seriously by most MPs, And of course, these challenges have a direct bearing on the operation of our core business of lawmaking, and also of the ability to hold the executive to account, among other things. Now, it's very clear, Chair, that we have been complaining. I mean, these complaints, if you look into the history of these complaints, they are banal in the sense that from the 4th, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th Parliament, we have been receiving the same complaints about the level of service from the Department of Public Works. Now, as the 7th Parliament, I think we are enjoined to answer the question of what is it that must we do as obviously a remedial approach to deal with this problem, or are we going to join the chorus of just complaining about the service without proposing anything? So I want to propose to this collective that we need to consider certain areas that Parliament must be empowered to hold the executive accountable, not the other way around. Because you can see the services that we get from our reliance to some of these departments compromise even our role as Parliament of holding them accountable. So I think we have reached a stage where we are left with no option but to consider gradually taking over some of the services from these departments. And I'll make just a basic example of services that we think should be taken over from some of these departments, more especially Public Works. We can consider taking over because we've been having serious problems around issues of precinct facility management. I think the time has arrived for us to consider areas of these facilities where Parliament must come in and manage them or build capacity to manage them as Parliament. And this approach is not unique, by the way. We can make reference to various parliaments who are independent, not relying on departments that they are holding accountable. So I think it's important that as this committee, under your leadership, Speaker and the chairperson of the NCOP, we should consider obviously taking over the management of some prison facilities that are meant, to ensure that we are an effective institution that is meant to hold the executive accountable. And then secondly, on the same issue of facility management, if you look into our villages status is deteriorating. All our villages. You can look at sports facilities, recreational facilities in those villages. You can look at basic things like what is this gardening services. I don't think we are getting the best services. And these are small areas that, truly speaking, if government can build its capacity, can be managed. And of course, the other area, because we have been complaining about transportation of members, and which is a very, very key aspect, enabling members to do their work without any hindrance. This is another area that should be looked at. How do we transport our members from Parliament to various villages? This is an area that I think Honourable Speaker and the NCOP chairperson, Parliament must have its own capacity to deal with this. But of course, we are just making this proposal because we think we are not seeing any improvement in terms of provision of some of these services. And that's why we are suggesting that we need to look at taking over certain services from other departments that are meant to be held accountable by Parliament. Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Baden Host.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to the Executive Authority and the STP and the team, and thank you very much for the presentation. I'm going to keep my video off, Chair, just for bandwidth purposes. Chair, I'd like to just start off by saying that the job of this committee is oversight, and it's it's very difficult to do the oversight in generalities. So I'm going to refer to specifics in the presentation that we received this morning, and ask specific questions if you don't mind. I'll start with slide 9, indicator 1.1 and 1.2. It indicates there that the objectives have been achieved, and yet there's no evidence of the actual achievement. So the administration should share with our committee the actual output. For example, 1.1, the analysis and design of the online committee system and the resolution tracking mechanism, and 1.2, the human capital strategy. In slide 15, the indicator 2.2 has not been met. So during the consideration of the APP, we spoke about this. The APP is a plan to plan. So we're planning to plan. And so, yeah, this indicator wasn't achieved, and Parliament is still reviewing the reports. But I'd like to remind us that the Quarter report was commissioned in 1999, and the independent panel on the assessment of Parliament was commissioned in 2009. So the fact that we're still reviewing these reports obviously undermines the APP and the strategic planning of the 7th Parliament. So, and talking about strategic planning, I think the previous speaker referred to this. I mean, we're reporting against an APP, but has the strategic plan of Parliament been approved by the two houses of Parliament? And has the budget process been approved by the two houses of Parliament? Because that's what the Act requires. Then on slide 16, the indicator 2.3 was met, the implementation oversight plan, but also it indicates to update targets. So once again, are we planning to plan? Slide 17, the appointments of the heads of ISDs, that indicator 2.4 was met. But can we please get a gap analysis report on the appointment of the ISD heads? Slide 18, the indicator 3.1 was met, public participation improvement. But can we get a report or at least a summary of the reviewed Constitutional Court cases, and what improvements have been identified? So, we need specifics. We're getting a lot of generalities in this report. Slide 28, and this is the part of following the money. The BRICS Summit. What was the total cost of the attendance of Parliament to the BRICS Summit? Will any of those resolutions that was taken at the BRICS Summit be ratified in Parliament? What was the delegation size of the delegation from Parliament that went to the BRICS Summit, and the roles of those delegates, so that we can see whether we got actual value for money from the attendance of BRICS or the BRICS Summit? The same goes with the SADC PF. How much was the total cost of attendance, and what was the actual delegation size, and what were their roles? Slide 29, IPU, 105th Assembly. We know the delegation leader was the speaker, but how much was the total cost of attendance, and what was the delegation size, and what were their roles? Slide 31, our committee resolved that the administration must report on cost savings quarterly. This report contains no details of any cost savings, and this is a resolution we've taken before. I can go and look and find it, but it'll be somewhere in the minutes of the meetings. And then slide 33, we get a quarter report, but it's really difficult for us to measure spending if we don't get the budget for the next 4 quarters in one presentation. Because what happens is you meet quarterly, you meet 100% of the budget all the time, and then you get to the fourth quarter and there's suddenly an underspending, and this has happened historically. And so that's why I think it's good to get all 4 quarters in the presentation. The human capital report, slide 43. And one of my colleagues in the beginning also referred to this. There's a lot of questions on HR that remains unanswered. Where is the costed organogram, the organization realignment process? Why are we continuing to recruit if we haven't finalized the organizational realignment process? And surely that will help us with cost cutting and efficiencies. So again, we've been asking for this, I think, since the first meeting. Where's the approved costed organogram? And then, yeah, slide 45. Can we get reports on the disciplinary cases of senior managers that's been suspended? And details on the cases reported on in slide 45. I think that's all from me for now. Thanks, Chair.
You're done, Honorable Badenhorst.
Yes, Chair, I've indicated that I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. Can we then move to Honorable Nilme?
Good morning, Co-Chair, and to the Speaker, STP, and our leadership of the Executive and colleagues. Let me start by appreciating the presentations that we have received. It's also noted that Parliament's Q1 performance reflected an 80% achievement, and which is commendable and demonstrates progress in key areas of oversight, legislation, and public engagement. On human capital, strides in human capital strategic framework aimed at fostering an agile, value-driven culture. Chair, a gap analysis of appointment procedures revealed inconsistencies necessitating systemic reviews. I just wanted some clarity on that one. And then finally, my last one is the concern on medical aid overspend. However, I must note with concern the medical aid expenditure, which stood at 23.9 million against an allocation of 15 million. This overspend is significant and worrying. We look forward to the engagement with Parliament next week for further clarity and solutions on the matter. Thank you, Chair. That's all for me at the moment, but otherwise the reports are well received. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Nilme. Can we then take the last hand was Honorable Ndankwini.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to our colleagues for the presentation. Chair, one of my questions was already asked in terms of the quality of questions, and I think this has been a true difficult space for us, where we are having ministers that are totally not answering what members have asked them or the question to be. So I want to check, have we done a vis-a-vis in terms of oral questions? Have we done a survey to check what members are asking ministers vis-a-vis in terms of what ministers are answering? Because really, it have become our question time have become in the executive, to be honest. In terms of vis-a-vis as well, in terms of the motions that we are passing in Parliament, are we tracking those motions? And I can put an example in terms of the motion the closure of the Israel embassy within South Africa. Because it cannot be correct as a parliament. We take stands and we blocked and there on either on the president, the executive. So what are we tracking in terms of those type of engagements? Because this is our work as members of parliament, and to just have things as tick box exercises defeats the purpose of our roles as members of parliament. Then I want to check in terms of staff morale. Is the staff morale, Secretary to Parliament, are we checking staff morale up till the cleaner that are cleaning Parliament? Because I would say that you get unhappiness across staff of Parliament, and then yet the report is telling us now that everyone is happy, it's business as usual, everyone is happy, but the staff morale have really been a painful process to see on how our staff at times are being treated around Parliament. If I can make an example, for instance, in the catering department, you are having a woman that have to push those heavy trolleys, and then they tend to get shoulder injuries and back injuries. So are we really having staff that are well taken care of in Parliament, or are we just concerned about the top leadership that is in Parliament, and they are well taken care of, are being treated inhumane in terms of staff relation issues? Thank you very much. That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Dangwini. Can I check with the speaker, the STP, and the team if we are ready with responses?
Yes, we are, Chair. I will ask the team to start and I'll come.
Just before we start with the responses, Honorable Speaker, I see Honorable Dagmore's hand is still raised. I don't know if he wants to make additions before you respond. Honorable Dagmore? Oh, okay, let's proceed, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and members, and thanks for the questions that have been raised, as well as comments and suggestions that have been made by members. With regards to the questions asked by Honorable Siwisa relating to non-response to question by members of the executive, I do want to indicate that this is a matter that we are following, working with the leader of government business, but also in this first quarter, we have had to reprimand members of the executive in the House, particularly for non-responsiveness on questions. The concern raised by Honorable Suisa with regards to conversion of written questions to oral reply is noted. I will, however, say we will table this matter to the Rules Committee as well as the Joint Rules, because this requirement is actually in our rules on how matters of written questions will be dealt with if they are not answered at a particular time. The issue of breakdown on communication between spheres and the examples made, particularly on the Water and Sanitation Department, I do think it's a matter that has to be engaged with the portfolio committees and select committee in this regard, but also I think as Parliament engaging with the executive to look at whether are there any regulatory issues that might be impeding this function to be executed seamlessly. And I do think that the NCOP, being one of the houses of Parliament that actually has the span over the three spheres of government, even in the House, you do have representatives of local government, for instance. You also have an opportunity where you've got members who come directly from provinces who sit in the House and others who come on the designated period. Probably it's one of the issues that can be tabled for discussion in the NCOP, in addition to other engagements that need to be held, so that we can see what would be the best mechanism of addressing such a challenge. It may not only be in water and sanitation, as Honorable Suisse has indicated. She was just mentioning water and sanitation as an example. The issue on the expenditure report in its detail, I will actually leave for the STP and the team, particularly on the rebuild, to say, what does this percentage that has been reflected on Q1 include in real time? Again, on the issue of human capital, the numbers of interpreters that have been sourced thus far, whether they actually cover the entirety of the complement that had been suggested, I would ask Mr. Mgaga to also deal with that. The issue raised by both Honorable Siwisa and Honorable Clark, and also Honorable Nhlangwini, on the quality of answers at times from the executive on questions that are being asked. I would again say this is a matter that we have sought to raise with the executive. We've also intervened even in the houses when such, happens. But again, it's a matter that I think we would need to look at within our Rules Committee to say what could be the best remedy of ensuring that there's full value received in answers that come from the executive. The issue of standard operating procedure for MPs to do their work, I can say that a proposal is welcome. On the issue of the rebuild, again, I think the team will respond to the chairperson, because Honorable Clark is raising a matter again that has been raised by Honorable Siwisa, but maybe more in detail to say, what is our tracking in terms of what we had agreed with DPSA? Are we online? Is there a possibility that we can miss the deadline, or we will be able to meet the deadline? And where may be challenges, how will those challenges be attended to? The issue of the recruitment timelines, again, I think Mr. Mgaga will be able to respond to that. And on the maintenance budget of Parliament, I think this is a matter that straddles between Parliament and Public Works. And again, I'm sure the team will be able to reflect on that, how these matters are being attended to. The issue raised by Honorable Dagmore, whether as part of the interventions of updating members on written question, can we also not look at utilization of the website? I'm sure that matter will reflect and come back to this committee to say how best can we deal with it. Honorable Van Rooyen also raised the need for receiving reports that deal with the oversight as well as the gap analysis, so that these are shared with members before the meeting in order for them to actually interrogate and be better prepared to actually engage with the Executive Authority and the team arising out of those reports. The proposal that has been made by Honorable Van Rooyen, I do think it's a matter that we can actually look at, and what its modalities will be the establishment of a parliamentary budget forum. And I guess this relates to how Parliament, in preparation of its budget, can actually get views from the representatives of public represented by their political parties in Parliament, so that indeed the allocations do address what we all agree as priorities for Parliament. Again, the proposal has been raised by Honorable Van Rooyen that given the quality of service that sometimes is a concern to members on services that we receive from Public Works, isn't it a time where Parliament must look at a possibility of taking some of the functions over? And again, this is a matter which I'm sure we will need to engage as Parliament and see how best we deal with it in terms of function shifts from the executive to Parliament in this respect. Honorable Baden-Hosts made specific questions in terms of our presentations that he believes need to be dealt with not in generalities, but more specific. And I'm sure the team will be able to relate to that. On the issues of delegations in multilateral fora, the PGIR committee, which includes all parties in Parliament, including also the two houses, is chaired by the House committees from both houses, House Chairperson Khadebe and House Chairperson Majosi. And that PGIR is the one that actually determines the size of the delegations, and also how those are done then by parties in terms of the actual members that represent us in those multilateral fora. The team, when they tabled the report, they did indicate a little bit on detail, though, on what some of those discussions and resolutions that have come to specific multilateral fora that as Parliament we belong to. I think we can, through you, co-chair, if that would be permissible, that maybe we might, at some stage of this committee, have to receive the full detailed report from the PGIR on all our international engagements, because in some, it's not just about participation at the General Assembly's meeting. There are certain standing committees to which some of our members participate in the intervening period before General Assemblies are held. And some of our members are in official positions of some of these institutions where they actually participate. For instance, in SADC, the member of EXCO actually comes from South Africa, and therefore when there are executive committee meetings of SADC Parliamentary Forum, that member will be expected to attend. On Matigizela, for instance, serve in the committee that actually deals with other relevant issues within the SADC Parliamentary Forum, so as Honorable Mente and other members. So we can bring that detail specific in terms of where our members serving and what we think is the impact that as a country we make in such multilateral fora. On issues raised by Honorable Nilme, I'm sure the team will be able to respond to that in detail. And the issue on questions again was raised by Honorable Ntlangwini, and I guess it's not different than the other two issues that have been raised by Honorable Clark and Honorable Siwisa, which borders really on the quality of questions that get received. She also raised the issue of monitoring the motions that get taken by Parliament and how those where implementation is lacking from the executive are actually dealt with. And I guess the Secretary of the National Assembly, as well as the Secretary of the NCOP, will be able to reflect on that issue. On the issue of the staff morale, as raised by Honorable Ntlangwini, I'm sure the HR Executive Director, Honorable Mr. Mgagarada, will be able to deal in detail on those, on how they track the morale of staff, because I don't think as an organization we are only concerned about senior executive, but it also all the staff of the institution, and the fora between ourselves and the staff are some of the mechanisms in which assessment is done about issues of concern from labor and how then as an organization we need to deal with those. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I will then ask on my side if a chairperson has already joined the meeting, maybe to also make her observation, but if not, we can then ask the team led by the STP to respond to some of the detailed questions that have been asked by members. Thank you very much, Co-Chair.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. Thank you so much. Cindy, do we have the chair of the NCOP in the meeting?
Chair, I saw the NCP chair joining earlier. I'm just checking to see if she's still online. One moment. I think the chair may have connectivity issues because
It's fine.
is no longer online.
Let's move straight to the STP. STP?
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. And thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for comprehensive coverage of the specific areas that you have responded to. We will then share.
Sorry to interrupt you, STP. Chair, through you, can I ask that the STP put his camera on so we can see him, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. On the areas, we will share our responses in terms of the areas reflected. Mr. Kaso and Advocate Pindela on the table, they will reflect on some of the reinforcement of the criteria used in terms of assessing some of these questions. In line with what Madam Speaker indicated, some of them may require rules and so on. So colleagues would reflect on the responses in the IGR on the side of NCOP and any matter that Mr. Klaso can indicate. On the communications update on the website, Mr. Motapo would respond to the question of Honorable Dagmo and Mr. Mgaga on the area of employees that have complained about some of the assessments that they need to do in terms of their work in catering. But he will respond broadly on what we do generally to assess employees, just to amplify the wellness response that we have provided in detail. Mr. Mashiko will respond on the first quarter on the performance of the refurbishment budget and the rebuild budget. And the last part would be the indication that our report is in line with the presentations of the draft strategic plan that we presented to the Joint Standing Committee after detailed preparations by both houses in the form of political committees that were set up. And finally, that draft was presented to the Joint Standing Committee, including the draft budget that underpins our year one preparation. So when we report on a quarter, the requirements of FMPLA is such that a year in advance, we must be able to make sure that as we execute this one, we are equally obliged to prepare for the next one. So we report against a plan that has been presented to the committee, and as required, the draft strat plan was also ATC'd in December, and there are guided processes in terms of the FMPLA to follow the compliance requirements. On the issue of the details on the delegations, I think Madam Speaker has indicated that the IPGR is the body that deals with that. I would like to leave it there, Chairperson, to ask my colleagues to go specific on the areas that honorable members have requested. Thank you very much. Mr. Kaso, you can start, followed by Advocate Pindela. And then thereafter, Mr. Motapo and Mr. Mkaka will be the last.
STP, and good morning, honorable members. Just on the issue of both the quality of replies and guidelines, or SOP, as the honorable member referred to, the subcommittee on the review of rules has been tasked to make recommendations on these two issues to the Rules Committee. The guidelines will relate to unannounced oversight by committees and by members, individual members conducting oversight. So the guidelines will then be presented to the Rules Committee for consideration. Chairperson, resolutions of the House are tracked, and currently the timelines are within 75 days that the members of the executive must respond to resolutions. So what would happen is that once the House has agreed on a report, the report will be communicated to the executive, and often committees would indicate by when the executive must respond. And if they did not, the Speaker will then give a timeline, which is 60 days. And after 60 days, if there's no response, the Speaker will then write again to ask members of the executive to respond to the House resolutions. So we are tracking that. And in terms of the APP, there must be regular reports on the response rate by the executive, and we'll continue to provide that information. Certainly on the publication of replies to questions on the website, that is happening. But with the change of the facilities, IT facilities that we're using from what we call Uvimba to SharePoint, there have been some delays, and the matter is being attended to, but replies to questions are regularly published on the website for the information of both members of Parliament and members of the public. Thank you, Chairperson.
STP, are we done?
Chair, if I may just one thing with your permission. The issue of why CODA report only now and independent assessment, we would like to indicate, honorable members, that we have an oversight model, and that oversight model of Parliament was a product in part of the CODA report of 1999, I think. And even when we did the rules, the current 9th edition of the rules of the NA, we took into account the independent assessment report that was produced around 2006 or 7, I think. So those reports have been taken on board in the development of the instruments that Parliament uses. And but what we are doing now, we are busy with the accountability standards framework. This is a product of the State Capture Commission, which said that Parliament must look into improving its accountability standards. So as part of that exercise, we are now also looking at the Quota report, looking at the current oversight report of Parliament, and various other instruments, including the current rules that we have as Parliament. So it's not like these reports were never considered before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair Advocate Pindela, on the multi-sphere planning on water and responses by cooperative governance. I think it was asked by Honorable Suisa.
Thank you very much, co-chairpersons, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Speaker of the National Assembly, honorable members, and my colleagues in the meeting. Let me start first with the conversion of questions. The rules of the National Council of Provinces are very clear that if a question is not responded to by a member of the executive, a member in whose name the question is standing may request that the question be converted to a question for oral reply. So the conversion is by request by the member in whose name the question is standing. While the National Council of Provinces has 100% response rate insofar as oral questions are concerned, in terms of the rules of the National Council of Provinces, the date is set aside for questions for oral reply. So all the questions that would appear on the question paper for that day would be responded to on that day, and that is why we do not have any outstanding questions insofar as questions for oral reply are concerned. Secondly, insofar as the cooperative governance is concerned, the cooperation between the three spheres of government, of course, the National Council of Provinces is at the cutting edge of cooperative governance and therefore continues to enhance the working of the three spheres in unison. We have had, as the National Council of Provinces, a three-sphere planning process where all the three spheres were represented, where all the three spheres outlined how they would cooperate in ensuring that services are delivered to the masses of the South African people. We are also anticipating now to have the local government week from the 16th to the 19th of September, where we will have all the three spheres gathered together, and the focus areas would be water and sanitation, it would be spatial planning, and the theme for that is restoring the dignity of our people in providing the provision of water and sanitation, as well as human settlements and spatial planning. So the National Council of Provinces continues to enhance the working of the three spheres, continues to oversee and ensuring that the three spheres of government work and function together as one unit. I think those were the questions which were put to me insofar as the National Council of Provinces is concerned. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, through you, Chair, Mr. Mkaka.
Co-chair, Madam Speaker, Chairperson of the NCOP and colleagues. Let me start with the questions around vacancies. That relates to language interpreters. Perhaps it will assist to give that breakdown. So we have about 33 vacancies that are being filled within the area of language services. To date, we have filled 11 language practitioners. 8 have been advertised recently, and we're now at shortlisting stages. This includes one section manager of languages, which is also at shortlisting stages. And 2 have been filled towards the language practitioners, and we also have 11 that are at shortlisting stages. What are the expected assumption of the start date? All these positions are expected to be filled by 1 November 2025. This is in addition to the roles that we have already filled within the language services. The aim here, what we're trying to achieve within the language services, is to ensure that we bring the numbers to 4 interpreters per language for all official languages, to ensure that we provide that language services adequately. There was a question around the turnaround times in terms of recruitment. In line with our standard operating procedure from human capital, for us, taking into consideration from the advert stage to shortlisting to interviews, and also taking into consideration a notice period that candidates, they normally need to serve of about 1 month, depending on their situations. So that gives us about 8 weeks turnaround time to fill, including the starting date. There was a question around the training and the upskilling of lower level employees by Honorable Clark, which talks to the timeline. What are the timelines for this intervention to upgrade and to upskill our cleaning staffs and so on? The program is for the duration of 12 months, which is likely driven by SETA, Services SETA, in conjunction with human capital. There was a comment around evidence to be demonstrated towards the strategy. Co-chair, Madam Speaker, and chairperson of the NCOP, the human capital strategy, as I indicated, has been drafted. It is part of our APP to be approved by March 2026. We're now at socialization stages of this human capital strategy. That can be shared. I think the point was from Honorable Badenhorst. The questions around organograms, co-chair. I recall that last year in October 2024, the organograms were shared and presented in its totality in the same meeting. In that presentation, we indicated the number of positions per organogram, and it is also costed. It's the work that is being performed between the FMO and human capital. Of course, the organogram is a very live process, it's ongoing. The issue around the employee relations cases, Co-chair, this matter was ventilated and our colleagues from legal services produced a report on the matters that relates to the unfortunate situation of the fire, the consequence management that was embarked on, and it was delivered and tabled previously. Let me deal with the question around the staff morale, particularly within the catering unit. I want to start by indicating that we do measure our employee experiences through interventions such as climate survey. We have one that is planned for future. So this is being done every 3 years. Secondly, we do hold employee engagements on quarterly basis, which are at institutional level, where employees do ventilate their concerns, and we deal with them at that level. Furthermore, Madam Speaker and NCOP Chairperson, the divisional managers, they do hold their monthly as well as ad hoc engagements with their teams, really to deal with any employee relations related matters that talk to morale. The question around their well-being within catering. Within human capital, we have a wellness unit, which is also charged with the responsibility to ensure that we assess from fit point of view, from health point of view, to ensure that we have a well fit resources. This is done on a yearly basis, particularly for areas that are hazardous, which includes the catering. Those assessments are coming this year. There was one that was conducted late in 2024 for areas such as printing services, language services, and we also include the wellness. But I must also indicate that within the catering, which falls within the institutional support services division, we're in the process of concluding the hiring of a dedicated manager. This process is now at advanced stages. The interviews have been done. We're now at recommendation stages. That will also assist to manage the employee relations and the entire staff related matters. STP, I want to leave it at this stage. I trust that I've covered all human capital related questions that were posed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chairperson. The only aspect not responded, Mr. Mgaga, is in respect of the question asked by Honorable Badenost about the slide that talked about labor relations matters, employees, CCMA, employees through various stages. I'm not sure if I missed that part. I do recall, however, that in the last 2 meetings, legal services did respond to profile of various cases that were being managed at that time. It might have been February or March, I may not recall correctly, but those updates have been given to the Joint Standing Committee. Do you want to reflect on that?
Hi, STP. Hi, coaches. I think I did touch on it, STP. I've responded to that the colleagues from legal services did present that matter. The matters of yours, they were dealt with within the broader disciplinary code and procedures of Parliament, and they've been successfully completed, both internally as well as externally. And that report was shared by legal services in this same committee. That would be my response, STP and colleagues, and Chairperson, Madam Speaker, and the Chairperson of the NSOP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Honorable Co-Chair. We have covered all the areas. Thanks.
Thank you so much, STP. Thank you so much, Speaker. And
Sorry, Coach, my sincere apology. I forgot Mr. Mashiho on the profile of the expenditure for the quarter. My sincere apology to that.
no, it's fine. You are welcome.
Thank you, STP. Greetings, co-chairs, Honorable Speaker, Madam Chairperson of the NCOP, honorable members and colleagues. The first issue that was raised relates to what the expenditure was about, the description, and it relates to professional services, and that is about contract administration and supervision under the National Assembly and the Old Assembly project. The other issue was about if the expenditure reflects a low percentage, does that indicate that there is poor performance on the project? And also to say, does it mean that we are not going to meet the target in terms of the completion date? Maybe putting it in context, from a low expenditure, we indicated from the previous meetings that Treasury made transfers to Parliament in terms of the tranches and a commitment that they're going to fund this project. Those transfers were not in line with the S-curve as a normal way of managing the cash flows. It was a way of obviously transfers as per the commitment. But when you look at different stages of the project life cycle, the initial work relates to planning and design, including design and documentation, meaning the procurement processes about appointment of contractors. And the expenditure only spikes once you get into construction. And even in construction itself, for the first few months, you don't have a spike in expenditure because the contractor has to establish site, has to ensure that the site is safe, and of course, commence construction. So in that respect, our expenditure is going to peak in the second quarter because the National Assembly contractor was only took site in April of this year, and then the Old Assembly contractor was only appointed in June. So in relation to the National Assembly, the question was that in the timelines, are we going to meet the completion date? And just to reflect to members that the delays that we have recorded and approved in terms of extension of the time claim is 1 day of excessive rain, meaning more than the normal rainfall allowed for in Cape Town. Under normal circumstances, a claim will be rejected. Just to record that there are 2 days that the contractor claimed for rain, but that claim was rejected because we felt that it was not excessive rain event, which is no more than the normal rainfall in Cape Town. There was 3 days that the contractor also claimed for in terms of excessive work that needed to be done to make the site safe before construction, because there was a transition from the old contractor who did the demolition to the new contractor. So the new contractor, when he outlined his methodology and when he assessed the site after takeover or after site handover, because of the health and safety concerns, and then because of aligning to his methodology being on site, there was that additional time that he requested because he had to make the site safe and ensure that construction can be executed efficiently and without any harm to staff. So there's a total of 4 days that were claimed in terms of extension of time. And those days were justified from a statutory point of view and from a contractual point of view. So that actually means that we have to find a way of recovery in terms of those days. And we're working with the consultants and the contractor to recover in terms of the program. Chair, extension of time claims are a normal occurrence in construction. And as part of the Parliament team, the DBSA and the project team, We constantly review the risk on the project, identify potential delays, and engage to find a way of mitigating those delays. And if those delays are beyond our control or beyond the contractor's control, we find ways of seeing how the recovery can be made. One way could be the contractor to crash the project, the program, meaning either put additional resources on critical path activities or to add additional hours in terms of his program. And of course, we try to manage that we take a least cost approach in terms of delivery of the project. So in conclusion, we are still on track from a normal point of view of managing the threshold of projects, because the 4 days that I made reference to is not outside the norm or outside the risk threshold that we have allowed for in our entire program. And as I indicated, that the expenditure will peak in the next quarter, and also to note that in relation to our finance, they only recognize expenditure after reconciliations were concluded, meaning by ourselves as Parliament staff from a project delivery side, and of course by the DBSA itself. So there will always be a lag in terms of recognition of expenditure by our finance department, because there's a cycle for reconciliation and validation of expenditure. That what the DBSA may submit as invoices, they may only be recognized in 2 months' time, because there's a cycle of validation, reconciliation, up to a point that finance itself does its own reconciliations, and then finally the financial reporting or disclosure. So that paints the picture, and for any other risk that will materialize, we will give an update to the committee. And as I indicated, that we are using the project management tools and techniques to monitor the project and to deal with those risks that have been identified. And if there's a need to make interventions, we'll make interventions and report to the committee and to the public at large. SDP, thanks, and thank you, Co-Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. Back to you.
Thank you so much, STP and Mr. Mashego, for the last part of the clarity. I see the hand of Honorable Suisa is up. I'm going to take the last batch of hands from honorable members who may want to make follow-ups. Can I note the hands of those members who want to make follow-ups? I only see 2 hands, and I'm going to close the list at that. I'm not going to take any other trigger hereafter. So going on, Honorable Suisa and Honorable Badenhorst are the only 2 members who have follow-up questions. Can we start with you, Honorable Suisa?
No, thank you, Chair, for the opportunity, for another opportunity to make follow-up questions. Chair, mine is just of a concern. I'm concerned. The reason why I wanted to know about the 4.6, I wanted to know where it was spent for what. And when we get the response that says that appointment of contractors, and I know that as Parliament or any other body, we need to follow legislation. There are frameworks that have been put in place to deal with such a big construction, but I sense that there is no urgency in actually finishing the project of rebuilding of Parliament. I mean, we are in 2026. We are almost in 2026. We are in the financial year 25-26 as we are standing. And we still don't get the hype that says that there is any progress into the actual reconstruction of Parliament. And it's of a great concern, Chairperson, that one needs to raise, to say that we need to find ourselves, especially when we look into the issue that the dome still also needs to be finalized for it to be conducive for any sittings, especially for joint sittings, where both houses can be accommodated. We should be moving from virtual to physical sitting. And I sense that the STP's office will have to prove me wrong, but I think the 7th administration is going to finish without that parliament not being finished. At the rate at which we are going, if we are told that DBSA can send in invoices, it will take 2 months before they can. And we all know that non-payment means that whoever is responsible for the construction or any project, it means that there's certain work that they can't do because the finances have not been relieved. I fully support the issue of following legislation and the frameworks that they've put in. But at some point, I feel like if we know that this is what needs, this is what we look into when an invoice is sent, why should it take 2 months for any invoice to be approved? I don't sense the urgency to finish the project of Parliament. Number 2 is the issue of questions, Chair. We have a serious problem when it comes to questions. You go to the National Assembly and then we find that they are at 88% oral. I'm not even speaking about written, oral reply. And there are just some ministers that just don't want to oblige to answer questions. Speaker of NA has alluded that they've reprimanded some of them, but something needs to be done. People need to be held accountable. Maybe if we can get a specific to say, also in the NCOP, the written replies, the 12% that exceeded the 10 days of response. If you can get an indication which ministers are being problematic to either answer questions in Parliament, orally in the NA, or to answer questions written reply, both NA and NCOP. Then maybe those, because if we are going to reprimand generally and we don't reprimand people specifically to say, Minister so and so, you never answer questions. The public needs answers. And you can't come here and not have a response to the question, because at some point, ministers need to learn to be able to answer on their toes. And they can only answer those questions if they are hands-on. They know what's happening in their departments. But if a minister doesn't know what's happening in their department, we are going to be stuck with ministers that don't answer questions, or they show a way of arrogance when it comes to answering questions in Parliament. So sometimes it's not that the question does not relate to the original question. It simply becomes some part of being not taking the public serious, because all of us are here because we are representing people that voted for us. And if they send questions to us, they expect to be answered those questions. But if we find ourselves at 80% of oral questions being answered in National Assembly because some ministers do not want to answer questions, then steps needs to be taken against those ministers. Maybe if we can get a clarity, if possible, that which departments are those that are always giving problems when it comes to answering of questions. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Badenhorst.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your second bite. I'll be very brief. As the STP alluded, the strategic plan is in draft format. So my question is just, when will we adopt the strategic plan? Because until it's been adopted by the two houses, we're just planning to plan. It's as simple as that. Mr. Mugaga, thank you very much for assuring me that the cost organogram with the salary scales was shared with this committee. It will then not be a problem maybe to ask through you, Chair, that committee services obtain that signed copy of the organogram with the salary scales, and if that can be please shared with the committee members via email, because that cost organogram is essential to help us to do oversight. And remember, we're doing oversight over specific financial management of Parliament, not over generalities. And if it's a living document, that's fine. Every time there's a change, you can just email us the updated document. That is why the public put us in Parliament, to ask specific questions. And when we ask for a report, for example, a report emanating from investigations on slide 45, I'm not asking for a PowerPoint presentation to the committee. I'm asking for specific reports on what on the details. A PowerPoint presentation is not a report, last time I checked. I've also asked for the specific costing of international travel. So line by line costing. Who went overseas? What did it cost the taxpayer? And what role did they play? So, I mean, it's impossible to do financial oversight if you haven't got the actual figures in front of you. And I think the South African taxpayers deserve to know, how much does Parliament spend on international travel? Who travels internationally on behalf of Parliament? And what do they do when they travel internationally? Obviously, when they go and ratify agreements and when they go and sign agreements and protocols, Parliament needs to ratify those agreements and protocols. So that's a given. But I'm more concerned about, and I'd like to know more about, the actual costing. Who travels overseas? What do they do overseas on behalf of Parliament? And what does it cost the taxpayer? Flights, accommodation, excursions, meals. We'd like to have a breakdown of that, Chair. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
STP, can we just get assurance from your team on the restoration project? As Honorable Subisa has emphasized, I think you were present in the meeting during the week when we were with Public Works. The sentiment that is being expressed here by Honorable Subisa is the sentiment with which we closed the meeting with Public Works during the. Can we just get the commitment that there is intention to complete the project, and that yourself and your team are leaving no stone unturned? You have rolled your sleeves, and you will do your best to ensure that the project is completed at the envisaged date. And also, lastly, respond to, okay, Honorable Subisa has also raised the answering of questions, which I think we can also emphasize it. And the last part is the one that has been raised by Honorable Badenhorst. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair. And on the question of the international travel and related matters, Madam Speaker did indicate that the committee that handles matters arising out of our international engagements as Parliament in various multilateral forums, those matters get processed through that. And should there be reports required by the committee, I think through that committee, they will be able to indicate what has been agreements entered into. And whenever we've got agreements that come back to Parliament, they get processed through our international protocols that govern tabling of issues back to Parliament for ratification and so on, depending on the nature of agreement that is required for the country. On the expenditure part around those matters, our report quarterly does indicate what activities took place, and it is able to aggregate reporting of performance of expenditure. I think if there's a specific request about how much and how many people, it is a report certainly that we can provide should it be required as a resolution of the committee. And then we will be able to indicate, because there is approval processes that guide any travel of any committee and or any structure of parliament that undertakes work in respect of the various focus areas of parliament. On the tabling of the report on the strat plan, indeed, in December, the draft strat plan for 2025-2029 was ATC'd. I think it was 13 December to both houses. And then subsequently, further work was done and it was presented to the standing committee in terms of the outline of priorities for the next 5 years. And it's against that plan that the APP of 26-27 will then reflect what are the priorities that annually we will be executing against this plan, similar to what we are presenting now for 25-26. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Can I check with the co-chair if she wants to make remarks?
Can I come back maybe before the co-chair?
Is that the speaker?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, I was going to give you after she has spoken before I close.
No, thank you.
So that in case she has other issues, because you know when you chair a meeting, sometimes you never have time to speak. So I just wanted to check if there are any matters that she wants to talk to, so that when you come in, you can straighten those.
No, thanks, Co-Chair, and good morning. Yeah, still morning. And greetings to the Speaker and the NCOP Chair, the STP, and honorable members. I think, Chair, I've been listening, even though I had some challenges, network challenges. But I think everything has been covered. The questions that has been asked by honorable members, the STP and the other officials, they were able to cover most of them, especially on the issue of the questions, whereby Advocate Pandelani was able to clarify the issue of the oral questions. How is it being responded, and the written questions. So I think it's one of the issues that was also maybe it was a serious matter, especially on our side, to say, how do you deal with that? But I think in essence, Chair, thanks very much. And I think everything has been covered. Thanks.
Speaker.
And it's my birthday today, ne?
Yes, I'm going to say happy birthday to you before I close the meeting. May we allow the speaker to also say happy birthday to you?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Honorable Co-Chair, and may you live long. And in our language in Zulu, they say, "Uze udle neinyoni zabantu bakho," meaning you see your children and your great-grandchildren grow. Thank you very much, to Co-Chair. Just to indicate that the issue of questions as members have raised, and Honorable Siwiya came back to that issue again. It's a matter that we are really working towards addressing, as Mr. Klaso has indicated what we've done. For instance, we've set up a subcommittee that must be seized with this matter, so that it also looks at our rules, what it provides, and how we can strengthen those. We also appreciate the request that has been made by Honorable Suwisa to look at who may be the members of the executive that are repeat offenders. And surely in the second quarter, I'll be able to do that following the reprimand I must say that we are monitoring how ministers are responding to questions given what we had raised with them in the House. With regards to the strategic plan, as Honorable Badenhorst have raised, once the strategic plan has been tabled in the two houses, and the two houses have actually made comments or asked for improvements or adopted, that's when it is adopted. And I think the two houses will have to ensure that that strategic plan that was sent to their houses through ATC in December is given a final nod. And it is important also for us to remember that the process of doing the strategic plan of Parliament had both elements, the political committee, which was chaired by the two House chairs from the NCOP and NA, and then supported by the administration. You'd recall, honorable members, that at one stage I did say to this committee that we have even asked that members take the strategic plan to their various caucuses so that they can actually feel that it has addressed all their matters of concern. We did receive some of the inputs before those were actually put in the strategic plan that was tabled in the two houses. And I hope we ensure that the two houses, if we feel they have not responded adequately, we actually do so. And I'm sure the secretary of both houses will be able to monitor that and report in the next meeting. Again, on international engagements, we will be able to give the actual detail that the honorable member is raising about the cost of each travel. But it is also important to appreciate that there are certain designations that are made by this Parliament. For instance, in the beginning of every term, both houses make a decision on who will be our representatives in some of the multilateral fora, such as in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Both parliaments had looked at that matter. With respect to the issue of the Pan-African Parliament, both houses and their 80-seat names of who we had said as Parliament must represent us. In the SADC Parliamentary Fora, the same has happened. And I think when we were requesting that maybe through you co-chairs, we might at some stage in this committee request the PGIR to just come and brief the committee on our international engagements and what we think has been the impact of our parliament in those. You would actually afford the committee that opportunity, but also just to say reports of the PGIR are tabled on both houses so that even those members that may not be representing Parliament in some of these fora can have a sense of what work is being done by our Parliament internationally. Again, with other fora such as your friendship fora, sometimes members of Parliament themselves would actually request that as a Parliament, we must have a friendship committee with this particular country, such as one that we had, one of the members had requested that we need to look at having a friendship forum with Greece or whatever. And the executive authorities have actually asked the PGIR to guide us as to how many friendship committees can we have during this term and what work we'll need to do to make sure that those international friendship committees, which enables the sharing of experiences between the parliaments, is actually undertaken. And I'm sure once they have finished guiding us on that, we will be able to share with the committee. Thank you very much. And thanks to the members for the issues that they've raised. We will follow up where certain reports have been requested so that members are appraised. Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Speaker, thank you so much. Let me thank you once again and your team, the STP, and the chair of the NCOP for the reports that you have presented before this committee and the clarity that were provided to questions that members have asked. We will continue to do oversight on the executive authority and the accounting authority as mandated by the Act. We want to thank you for your cooperation. Our committee has been meeting very frequently, Honorable Speaker, and we want to thank you for always availing your time to be part of these meetings. STP, you must not tire. We will continue to ask you questions. And you can see the way in which we chair our meetings. We provide for follow-up questions, and every time questions are asked, they must give you courage to provide more and more information. That is the order of oversight and accountability. And I hope that yourselves as well in the position that you occupy, it gives you more confidence every time you appear before a committee. Questions are asked and you are successfully able to provide answers to those questions. It means you are steering, not steering, it means you are serving in the right direction. And I want to encourage you and the team that you lead. When you come before this committee, you must know that you are coming to South Africans who are complementing your work, who are helping to provide you with guidance and support so that you can execute your responsibilities successfully. There will be at no stage where you appear before this committee and when you leave, you feel like you don't belong here. Of course, we are in the battlefield, we are in a game, we will play the way the game must be played. But at the end of the day, the goal is one, is to have a parliament that can represent the people of South Africa to the best of its abilities, a parliament that can meet the targets that it has set for itself. Honorable Co-Chair, Honorable Ndlovu, happy birthday to you. I'm saying this on behalf of the members of the committee. We wish you all the best in your life, and we hope that this year of your birthday will be the best year. I mean, this moment of your birthday will be the best moment for you this year. I want to lastly thank the honorable members for their robustness and for continuing to ask questions that they strongly feel that the administration must provide answers to, including those other matters, Honorable Suisa, that you have raised, which must not escape us when we go to our next meeting on Friday. They must still find expression so that when we go to the meeting of the 19th of September, you are also satisfied that the matters that you raise are being considered by the committee and are taken seriously by the administration. Today is a Friday. I want to thank you, all of you, for having participated in this meeting. Have the best of the afternoons. Thank you so much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. Enjoy your weekend too.
My weekend is yet to start. I'm going to another meeting now at 1 o'clock.
Long live the chair. Long live